everyone, welcome to today's episode. This is going to be a quick, lightly, probably maybe not at all edited version of the show, but I felt compelled to just share this message in light of so much turmoil that is happening in our area, namely because of Hurricane Helene. So let's get into it. Welcome back. I'm Emily. I'm a certified Christian life and business coach, and this is the channel where we talk all things relatable Christian life, entrepreneurship, and living with bold intention to go after God and to serve fully His plan for our lives. So today I wanted to touch on something that has happened. I'm sure most of you are aware in the news. Hurricane Helene hit on Thursday and just caused mass devastation, not only in Florida, but also in pretty much the entire span of the Blue Ridge Mountains, which spans Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. And there has been mass destruction. A lot of it has been focused on Western North Carolina, but all the mountains in that region have been hit very hard. Dams were breaking. The people were not anticipating what was happening. They knew storm was coming, but they did not anticipate dam after dam breaking, which caused mass flooding and literally wiped towns off the face of this earth. Many are still trapped as this is being recorded. There is much confusion on what is actually happening in the way of support and help from government, from local organizations. There are many local organizations that truly do have boots on the ground, that truly are making headway and helping these people who are trapped, who have been isolated for days at this point. No food, no water, no power, no service, no internet, complete blackout mode. There is rumblings of data of how many people have been impacted, but the numbers are far below what is true. Only at this time, only about 30% of people have been accounted for, 30% in an area with millions of people when you span it across the region of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And this is causing mass heartache and pain and just a lot of problems, pain and angst for everyone involved. I personally have family who is from the region and a lot of extended family who are living there right now and living through this. It has been pure devastation. And it reminded me, of course, a pointed Sunday service that my pastor gave to our church this past Sunday after the flood. We've been talking about suffering, and this was a culmination of Sundays leading to this point in his series about suffering. I will not take credit for talking so eloquently about these points of suffering because, again, my pastor preached on this, but things that he pointed out, which I think are great for right now for us to talk about, because in light of this natural disaster and the destruction and the rebuilding and all of the suffering that's taking place because of that, there is now going to be a whole other arm of it, because we have seen how media and political figures and just the dynamics of our current situation in this election year have culminated to make every single situation a political one in a way to cause divisiveness and to drive more suffering for us as a culture and as a people, as a country. And some things I wanted to point out about suffering to help us know as Christians how to manage all of this suffering, how to manage all of this divisiveness. And while we all will uniquely suffer in our own ways, this is a call to be aware and to engage in suffering in a way that is Christ-like and honors God and allows more fruit to be harvested from these seasons of heifer. We will not ever know why things happen and what the ultimate plans are for the Lord to carry out His will for us, that is for our good and His glory, but we must be resilient and endure. So one point my pastor made is suffer in God's sovereignty. These lessons are focused from Acts 14. This is following Paul's first initial mission trip as a new believer in Christ and what he's trying to accomplish, being on fire for the Lord, being on fire for God's message, God's truth, God's love, and sharing it with the people. So in Acts 4, he comes upon one of his first cities and he is stoned. He called out of the city by those who are people of the church, and he is stoned, left for dead. And suffer in God's sovereignty is talking about suffering is a regular means of sanctification. Suffering is a mainstay in the faith journey. And here Paul is on his, inaugural path to being a missionary for Christ. And the first place he goes to, he is screamed at, ridiculed, yelled, and stoned. And we see throughout his life, it is just one suffering element after another, sanctifying him in his faith in God and his love for God and his endurance to be a testimony to God's enduring love in spite of what others, the world, those who do not accept Jesus will put onto someone, and him in particular. The second point is suffer with other Christians surrounding you. When the disciples surrounded Paul, he rose up. Community matters more than being alone. We're not here to be kings and queens. We're not here to be prince and princesses. I hear those terms all the time in the light of Christianity talk, like I'm a princess of the King, Most High King. And I get the sentiment, but also it just gives me the creeps. Side note, none of us are called to be these individual emblem of God. Like the only Jesus there ever was one Jesus. We're not here to be Jesus. We will never be in that same light. And we're not here to do this journey alone. We're not here to be individualistic in our pursuit of gaining godly glorification. We're better in community. So suffering in community is part of it. And what a testament to see already, faster than the government, faster than government agencies, faster than all the big names that you can think of who've been cast as these beacons of help. We know what truly goes on, how much money truly is given, how much money is truly spent. There are organizations rising up, and I will say with great conviction and firsthand knowledge that the first ones to respond to this disaster has been churches. Christians have been the first to respond. And where we are in community, God is present. And I have no doubt that through this suffering, through this absolute tragedy, there will be glorification given to God. There will be miracles upon miracles where the only explanation is Christ. And through suffering, we can have a resilience in knowing that God's likeness will shine brighter than the dismay. A third point about suffering is suffer in light of your mission. Paul went right back to the city. Once he rose up, once his disciples came around him, he rose up and he went right back. He went right back to where they had just stoned him and cast him out. He did not delay his mission. He knew what was at stake. Number 4 is suffer to encourage others. How many times has your suffering been a testimony for someone else? Our experiences give other people faith and hope. And even if for no reason but that one, much suffering takes place. And it's not always the best thing to hear. Oh, your suffering is helping someone else. I know how painful that is to hear. But I think as Christians, when we cast our heart and our eyes and the posture of our mindset onto God, that is fulfilling in spite of. And so in the midst of all this turmoil, all this wreckage, some of these places will never be built back. And it's not because the people can't, it's not because of the lack of want or need or desire, but lack of ability and not having the correct support and community help to get these places back. Most and a lot of these towns are working class people who don't have the means to leave their homes for months in hopes of it being rebuilt and way to go find work somewhere else to be able to come back and rebuild it. Nobody had flood insurance in the high mountains of the Blue Ridge Mountains. Nobody. So they're going to get no assistance except for the kindness of people to donate. And will it be enough? So for some of these places, they will never be what they once were, ever again. And that's heartbreaking. My alma mater is in the mountains. The mountains are my happy place. If I could go anywhere, it would be the Blue Ridge Mountains every single time. My family is from there. And when I'm there, I feel the most myself and at peace. And it's just breaking in my heart to see the devastation that there is, to know that it won't ever be what it once was. But it doesn't mean it can't be beautiful and great and even better through this suffering. We don't know what's to come, but there's so much need right now, so much suffering. The other point our pastor made was suffer as you build the church. Suffering is a platform for Christ. It is. It's a way for God's message to become apparent, to see prayers answered. It doesn't always look the way we expect, but God's presence is always there. And I've seen that already within the first 5 days of the outpouring of love and support as I've tried to sound the alarms on the hometown my family is from, which has been greatly undersupported. It's just off the map and radar of anything. It's a very small town. And to see that its name is getting put in the news right now and people in my surrounding community coming out in droves to help and donate as we are creating and supplying a convoy to go up and disperse as much as we possibly can to help support these people. You will hear helicopters maybe in the background. I just heard one go over my house. We're in an area where they are putting together Operation Drop, and they are collecting as much as they can to take in. And these are private organizations, private plane owners, small town churches that have banded together and will not accept defeat in the face of this disaster. And so suffering is paramount to our relationship with God. It just is, because it is part of our broken experience in this broken world that we live in because of sin. And through this, there will be greatness shown and glory given to God for what he can do when nothing else makes sense of why. God is the answer. Suffering is inevitable. If you've lived a life with no suffering, have you lived fully, intentionally, with zeal? Where is God calling you? What action is God calling you to take? Suffering is hard. Suffering is not something we want or welcome easily, but it will never not be so. And I just want to encourage anyone, if you have any ability to help Hurricane Helene relief efforts, please do. There are so many organizations. I'm going to put 2 in the description below that I know for a fact and have had firsthand experience with, knowing that they are doing exactly what they need to be. These organizations are also the most equipped, more equipped than the government agencies in this whole southeast region of America. They have always been first to respond to any natural disaster or that has impacted thousands of people, and they are showing out and showing up for God in this place too. One is NC Baptist Relief, and the other is BaptistOnMission.org, and that's plural, BaptistOnMission.org. I'll be sure to link those below. Our church is taking up donations. These people will need help for months and months. This isn't flat plains, easy to access. There's mudslides, treacherous roads, no roads, mountain. It takes years for one highway to be built in the mountains because of what it takes, the manpower. And all of that has literally virtually every infrastructure, bridge has had destruction from this. So it's going to take years, and they will need continued support and to not be forgotten. Thank you guys for listening. I know this is not my normal content, but suffering is a normal part of our life. I will be sure to link the sermon that my pastor gave on this specifically too. I'm not taking credit for what he shared with us, but feel it's important to share this message. It's important as Christians to embrace suffering and to manage suffering because much comes from it. So until next time, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Bye for now, and God bless.